Okay, peeps, we're back with another COVID cabal. Got a late one tonight because I had to take the drive up to New York. And was it a bad drive? Yes, it was. Heavy, 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 heavy rain. Heavy, heavy rain. And really, it's not my kind of thing, guys. I'm not big on it. One of the things I hate is I hate driving in heavy rain at night. I'm probably everybody hates that, right? That's not like it's a pretty universal kind of sentiment. But we got a show tonight. We got a show. I wouldn't say we have like this little spotlight here. Oh, I'm not. Yeah, no worries with that, guys. I think just being real here. I think I'm just getting a little tired because it's been. I mean, I think pretty much since the debate, I have not been sleeping a lot. I've been sleeping probably 4 to 6 hours tops per night, 4 to 5 usually, and I wake up with tons of energy. But I think it's a lot of it adrenaline. I do think that there's energetic swings, but I think a lot of it's adrenaline. Of just being really, really in with this stuff, and really diving deep into the polls and all that and all those things. So we're gonna talk about that. I want to go through the wine as usual. So we have the rest of the port here. I remember I needed a break last time. This is the really nice ports. So the first time we did port, we did a ruby and a tawny. Those are known as wood ports, right? They're kind of in wood. Just in a barrel. They can be aged for a couple of years, especially the tawnies. Today, though, in contrast to that, you have things called vintage ports, which are really, really pricey and really, really nice. I had, my dad laid down a vintage port for me at my birth year, so that when I turned 21, I have this port. I actually ended up drinking it when I was like 28, and they're amazing. But obviously, if I was to buy a vintage port, it would not be ready to drink. I mean, you could drink it, but it wouldn't be like ready to drink, and it would be spending $80, $90. So what I did was I got something called a late bottle vintage, which is sort of like a fast track vintage port. They basically try to accelerate the aging process to try to make it, it's kind of like the modern impatient man's version of the vintage port. So I got that over here, Quinta de Caldas, and then I've got a white port over here. And so, yeah, so the white port, I was very brief with it. I was very brief with it, Jackson, because we were about right before the debate, so I was just doing a rush job. So we also have a 10-year aged white port here. And notice I'm not going to lose myself like last time. Last time I got so burned having to, over the course of a couple of days, go through 2 bottles of port. We got half bottles now, so save some money. And that white port is incredible. Holy shit. Holy shit. I was not expecting that. You guys can kind of see, you can see I'm a little more tired. I was not expecting. This white port is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's like so much caramel, honey, like honey in particular. There's like tons of nuttiness. I want to show you this to you guys if maybe you can find it and try it out. It's not too expensive. I think this was this half bottle was probably low teens. I mean, sorry, low 20s. Oh yeah, we still got some more time in Portugal, but we're going to be leaving the Douro after this one. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the area as I taste this stuff too. Well, I think that's kind of like woke me up. This is good. This is good stuff. Let's try the late bottle vintage. See, it's good, and it's very as you would expect. It's actually in a lot of ways it's more of what I was expecting from a ruby port, the last ruby port. And it's got all that sort of like sweet juice, like cherry juice that comes up on the front end. But guys, if I had to put these two against each other, this is a 6-year aged late bottle port, and this is a 10-year aged white port. I mean, the white port is just so superior. and they cost the same. It's really, really interesting, especially because white port is very marginal in port. It's really like not something that they, it's not one of the main things that they drink there. So anyway, guys, just little bits of information about port before we move on from it. I mentioned it before. The country, the territory of the Douro. I just want to show you the map here. So basically, around here you have a mountain range, and this blocks the Atlantic winds. So you have here, and this is the peak area. It's kind of glare here. This is the peak area of port, and this is very, very hot and dry. You have just such a variation. It's so different from here, where you have like it's very wet. You have Vino Verde. Right here, it's really ridiculously hot. I'll show you some pictures. And very, very steep. So it's these big, big caverns. And so pretty much only vines can grow here. And they get up to like 100 degrees in the summer. And then they drop down really, really low in the winter. And it's kind of interesting that what they would do is the wine would cook in the summer here. And that was part of the reason why they started to do a lot of fermented wines, because they couldn't control the temperature. Or sorry, just like fortified wines, because they couldn't control the temperature. But it was interesting because port was bottled in Porto, which is on the coast. And so what they would do traditionally, okay, you had the big wine festival. It's like a Dionysus kind of festival. Everyone's pressing grapes. And then they had it, in their little storage areas where they put it into barrels. And then they push the barrels downstream. Okay, so you guys get this. They'd have these little barges, and sometimes, from what I recall, they would even just push them in the water and have them float downstream. And they would get to the port houses down there. That was like a way. It's kind of like the Hobbit, when you have with the elves at Mirkwood, right? Or how they have like the hobbits escape through the barrels because they would push the empty barrels down to Dale. See, I know my Tolkien lore. So it's kind of interesting tradition. Of course, now we have like refrigeration and stuff. It's completely changed a lot of these traditions, but port's really good, guys. I really recommend you keep the tradition alive of laying down a vintage port for your kids when they're born. It's a really cool tradition. And I do think that the occasional port is really lovely, especially since we're getting into deep, cozy season. There's nothing that warms you up like a nice glass of port. But it's not something for a regular occasion, in my perspective. Madeira, which we'll get to in a couple weeks, is my fortified wine of choice for one reason, okay? I think it tastes really good, but because Madeira never goes old, okay? You could open a bottle of Madeira from the 1700s and it would not change. It doesn't change. Whereas port has a longer shelf life than regular wine because of its alcohol. Like, alcohol is a preservative. But it's still going to deplete in quality over a period of weeks. So there is like a shelf life. You open a bottle of port, you gotta drink it. All right, guys, let me get this. Let me open this computer up. Let's see what we got here. You guys first, tell me how you're feeling. I want to hear the updates from you guys. How are you feeling about things? You guys feeling psyched? You guys feeling amped? You guys feeling shitty? What's going on? We're gonna be a little more interactive here. A little more interactive in this Periscope. Tell me what's going on. Tell Pat your concerns. Tell me your hopes and fears. What's going on, peeps? Feeling amped up, right? Feeling amped up. Goes in waves. I feel you. I would be lying if I said that I didn't have a couple waves. Right? The difference, I think, is that two things. One, I'm never going to show you guys any sort of when I'm in a low state like that where I feel like I don't feel great. If that hits me, I'm not going to go around and share it and spread fear, because I understand that some of it just has to do with riding the different waves that occur. Sometimes you're going to get a jolt of it. Hey, man, I'm really sorry to hear that about the human contact. I mean, I know this has been really tough for a lot of people. We're going to be getting out of it. I do think that there's going to be a long period of processing for a lot of the country, but spring 2021. It's going to be great. Yeah, so let's talk about some frustrations here. I mean, we've had some big stuff, especially with Tucker, Bobulinski, all the big revelations, things we knew, but big revelations from inside source. And he's very, very persuasive. He's very like he was a good source, right? Really able to talk cleanly and clearly about what happened. I also, for the record, we have to acknowledge here that Bobulinski is trying to cover his ass. Okay, I don't believe for a second. I don't believe for a second that he. Well, okay. So here's the thing. So okay, there's two possibilities. Either there was some level of entrapment here, and that he was deep undercover to try to bring this stuff out. That's a possibility. That's a possibility that he was deep undercover. Q clearance, right? Can you believe that they said that on television? Q clearance. So that's actually a really good point, and that very well could be what's going on. It's either that, or he's ratting to cover his ass, which fair enough. Honestly, fair enough. Yeah. So here are some of the negative things. Okay, you guys know. You heard me before talk about this, about how Amy Coney Barrett wasn't my favorite. She wasn't my favorite. I thought she was very qualified for the position. I would have voted for her. It wasn't really my thing. I've since heard, since our last Periscope, some rumors that she actually didn't vote for Trump in 2016. She would have voted for like Mick Mullen or something like that. She kind of, maybe some of you are watching this right now, but I always get very, very skeptical whenever the sort of Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh kind of conservatives are all about a candidate. I get very, very concerned about that. And that was Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett. They loved her. They were obsessed with her. They were obsessed with her about abortion. Yeah, Robert Barnes wanted that Cuban woman from Florida instead of Amy Coney Barrett. But guys, I love Robert Barnes, okay? We're making money because of Robert Barnes here. But there's things, this is like, I'm saying all this stuff up, talking about my kind of concerns and issues. First off, I'm not happy with what's been going on with those two things in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. There are levels of judicial consistency with these two cases, first off. And second off, they're not precluding intervention. They're just simply not, from what I understand, and you guys can correct me on some details here because I might get them mixed up, but one of the big aspects here, and that's one of the reasons that Kavanaugh even broke, and I think in the North Carolina case, is that the Supreme Court doesn't feel like it has jurisdiction to overturn state court on a state election matter, at least at this juncture. I don't know if part of the reason Amy Coney Barrett recused herself was because she didn't have enough time to read the briefings. Remember the thing in Pennsylvania, it says that voting, like they're going to allow votes for 3 days after the election, and they're also going to have those votes segregated from the rest of the other votes, and they can be destroyed. So it's not like an all hope is lost kind of situation. But just to get pragmatic, real politic here, Amy Coney Barrett went through relatively easily, right? I mean, there were some hiccups. People complained. They made a big fuss. Robert Barnes wants this Cuban woman. He wanted her to go through. Maybe that would have worked. Maybe that would have worked. Trump doesn't run the Senate. The Senate is the ones, he proposes the candidate, but the Senate is the ones who pushes it through. So if you wanted to get, this is a really tight deadline, guys. I mean, this was like 2 week, maybe 3 week, but it was like, actually, no, it was a month, because I remember I was on my trip and Ginsburg died. So it was like a month. They had a month to get, which is still a very short amount of time, a month from Ginsburg dying. And then you have a week or two after that, you have to get the candidate, proposed, and then you have to go through all this stuff. It's just not, I genuinely do not believe that like they couldn't have some big um, coalition building situation. They needed to have a lot of support and enthusiasm from Republicans in the Senate who are, the conservatives are like Matt Walsh, et cetera, like Ben Shapiro, and they wanted Amy Coney Barrett. They wanted her, and Trump wanted a judge who was going to be more on their side. I do not think, okay, even though she's not my favorite person, she doesn't have quite my philosophy. I do not think that she is a compromised individual like John Roberts. I don't think that. Um, I don't get a sense of that. And I think that as let's be patient here, okay? I one thing that's very annoying, although understandable. I'm not being mean or anything like that. I'm not trying to be judgmental, but there's a hysteria that people get with politics. There's like they don't get a verdict they want, and or something doesn't go exactly as they expected it, and they get hysterical about it. I am not afraid. I hear you guys with the stuff with Pennsylvania and North Carolina. Trump has lawyers all across every single jurisdiction. Okay, every single one of these jurisdictions, they've had lawyers from out of state. They're there. Okay, they're not going to be able to get away with the fraud. They're not going to be able to get away with it. I really, really promise you guys that this time around, they're not going to be able to get away with it. It's going to be well fought, well litigated, and all we really got with this court situation was sort of like an ambiguous middle ground where the court didn't say Democrats can continue to count votes without stipulations for these many days. They basically just said they're going to allow it and then they're going to check and see what's going on with it. That's what they said. We're going to allow. That's basically what it was. Like we're going to allow. Like, and they're only doing that because that's what the state court said, and they're trying not to usurp the jurisdiction of state courts. So I know it's frustrating. But guys, let's talk about some of these numbers here, okay? Let me get us some of this more of this white port. God, it's really good. I mean, I was in Portugal like a year or so ago. I think about a year ago, and I got white port there. It's just super basic and simple. Just had a glass of it. This is really nice. I guess because it's aged 10 years, it makes all the difference in the world. Lovely. Okay, let's talk about some of these states. So, our favorite pollsters, Richard Barris, right? Richard Barris. If you guys are not watching People's Pundit, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, Richard Barris he's in our corner. He believes in our stuff. And he pretty much got the election almost completely correct in 2016. He was one of the only ones who did it, right? But here's the thing about Richard Barris and why I recommend people follow him is that he is not he's not a hopium person. Okay, he's not hopium. He's like very, very measured. Okay, like I'm gonna be really honest with you guys. I'm a realist. But I'm very optimistic. I'm very, very optimistic. Okay, and so I believe in possibility, and I think that's great. I love that about myself. I wouldn't make a good pollster because to be a pollster, you have to be really, really precise and you have to be really, really judicious if you're going to be a good pollster, right? We don't have a lot of good pollsters today. So why I mention this with Richard Barris is that Richard is not going to sell you down the river. He's not going to tell you things you want to hear that, there are people who are claiming that there's going to be a huge landslide. Trump's going to take multiple deep blue states. Guys, I'm open to the possibility. I really think anything's possible. I really do believe that. I really do believe it could go that far. There are some indications that this could be a really, really big wave. One of the big ones is that I think it's something like 19. God, I know I have the two figures right. I just hope I'm not saying them incorrectly, but I believe it's Democrats have 19% more votes coming in on election day, and Republicans have 40% or over 40%. So when you see a lot of these states are pretty much tied right now or getting close to it, Democrats have narrow leads, it can be a total wipeout. I mean, that's a huge, huge vote differential on election day. Huge, huge vote differential. So, and Democrats have pretty much hit where, they're getting to their top margins, they're getting to their top points. But Richard Barris is going to tell you the truth. Okay, he's not going to sell you down the river with this stuff. So I think he has his own personal perspectives. I think that because you can see from his commentary versus when he digs into numbers, right now he's giving Michigan, he's saying Michigan is, very, very slightly within the margin of error Biden. But I think he believes that Trump's going to take Michigan. But he's talking about he's just going to stick with the exact figures. Guys, we know he's going to take Michigan. We know he's going to take it. And there's a lot of other pollsters. There's a couple of young guys, actually. And frankly, if I could say anything to these young guys, you have like real election analysis, real election politics, and Red Eagle politics, okay? If I could say anything to these guys, they're not watching, I'm sure. They're crunching numbers. Like, change some of your icons, change your names, like, work it among yourselves, because two of them, like, real American politics and real election analysis, or, like, it's like the same account, so it can be really difficult to tell. But they're smart, and they do some good little anecdotal dives in the data. They're not as, like, experienced as Barris or Barnes. And, you have these little, they'll talk about some of the details here, but what we're really looking at here, we're looking at, we talked about before, Trump's going to take all the states he took before, and there's a really good chance he's going to take Minnesota. Okay, he's crushing it with men there, and the Iron Range around Duluth is going heavily for him. Okay, he's probably going to take Minnesota. He's probably going to take New Hampshire, and he's probably going to take Nevada. There's a lot of really good indications from Nevada as well. Nevada, of course, situation just being fraud. It's a very controlled election system there. They have a lot of leeway. So some sort of, if we jump down from there to I want to just to close this off with the election day stuff. I mean, get out and vote, take action, right? There's going to be a big flood. I really do believe it could be much bigger than people know. And one of the things I love about our guys is that they acknowledge like weird things with the data sets. They acknowledge that this is like really surging for Republicans. And all I can tell you, like, I'm not the data cruncher. So I'll tell you about the polls. Okay, the polls are fake. The news is fake. The polls are fake. I don't know why people don't get that, right? Not saying I don't understand how it doesn't affect them, because negative news affects people. That's a whole. I mean, what they want to do is they want to entrain you and they want to manipulate you. But when they can't do that, they at least want to demoralize you, right? And a lot of news is just demoralization. It's demoralization campaigns. Now, once you understand the sort of states that would put them in a position where they're making that kind of stuff, you start to feel differently about it. I mean, I think I talked about this on a previous Periscope. There is such a ridiculous amount of, like, some of these polls are talking about, like, Trump's going to lose Iowa, right? Trump's going to lose Iowa, or he's like only 1 point away from Biden in Iowa, and like Biden's going to take Texas by a couple points. Like, these are just like complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense, right? Like, Biden didn't win Iowa in the primary. And it's like, oh, he's gonna win it in the general election. Like, just get the fuck out of here. And they'll take things like, for instance, Trump being in Arizona. And by the way, he's in Arizona. Arizona is his state. He's gonna win it. I don't mean it's his state, but he's gonna take the state. But he's spending a lot of time in Arizona, not only just because it's important to lock it up. You don't want to take it for granted, but also because he's got a weak Senate candidate. Martha McSally sucks. Okay, I still bet on her, just because I'm fingers crossing that the Trump coattails and the stuff at the courts are going to be enough to convince voters to support her down ballot. But she sucks, and she's running against an astronaut. Okay, it's not like a good combination. If Mark Kelly wasn't an astronaut, I think that it would be a different situation. But people, especially a lot of the retired boomers who head down to Arizona, it's like they got like a hard on for an astronaut, right? Takes them back to the good old days. So I don't know what's gonna happen with it. I don't know. Like, leave it to the fucking GOP to take a candidate who failed in an election she should have won in 2018, and then they decide to appoint her to the Senate anyway, even though she was a loser, and then she's gonna lose again. She's a fucking loser. She's gonna lose again. Hopefully, she's not gonna lose. I mean, I'm supporting her. But Tillis in North Carolina is much more of a safe bet. Much more of a safe bet. He's going to trail a little bit behind Trump, but the Democratic candidate in that case, Cunningham, has had quite a few scandals around him. Tillis, the consensus is at this point is that Tillis is going to make it. Now, the governor race beneath that, apparently the information seems to indicate that the governor is going to win it. I'm blanking on his name at the moment. I don't know. I mean, people are making a lot of good structural points about why the Democratic North Carolina governor is not going to make it, mostly relating around his handling of COVID, which I suppose, as lefty governors go, could have been worse compared to like Whitmer and Cuomo and Newsom. But we're not talking about, this wasn't good. He didn't do a good job. And I think if people in North Carolina really want to open up, and Trump's going to probably get at least a 4% increase, it's looking like right now, on Biden. Hopefully, Cooper, that's it. Thank you. Hopefully that should translate enough down ballot that he gets it. Again, I put some money down on that. But mostly because the odds are just really good. Like, it's basically 4-1 odds. So 20%. Less than 20% sometimes. Okay, so let me see some of these questions you guys were saying here. Yeah, so there's a lot of demoralization with the polls, right? That's a lot of what it is. And as it was pointed out, there's an aspect here where if things don't go, when they lose, and they know they're going to lose at this point. I mean, Biden is not doing anything. Biden's like in a basement. You guys saw that rally that was put out there with the circles around it. I mean, could you even look like more of a loser? It's so uncool. It's so pathetic to see it. And I really think that most people, like, you have really outspoken people on both sides, and then you have people who don't speak out a lot. And I think that the people who don't speak out a lot, they don't have like the confidence or a desire to go and fight and argue with people, and they have a lot of anxiety and fear. And I think looking at Biden makes them feel more afraid, because you see this sick old man whose entire agenda is really, really just designed basically to fuck them. And they know it, but they might have some level of guilt about it because of the propaganda campaigns. But I think that they won't admit it. I mean, it's like the silent Trump voter in 2016, except it's amplified. So, I mean, I really think we're gonna see a bigger shift, and that's why I'm banking and betting on the popular vote, and I'm betting and banking on the House. I really think it's gonna happen. I think we're gonna see a lot of House seats flip. I don't personally. I'm totally open to the electoral map getting deeper than 326. Again, Trump's 2016 map plus New Hampshire plus Minnesota plus Nevada. I'm open to that happening. I haven't seen any evidence from pollsters, from people on our side who crunch numbers, that say that that's likely to happen. Okay, states that it would possibly happen with are going to be New Mexico and Maine. Probably Maine more likely, but I really just I don't know. I don't know that I see that happening. But I do see in states like New York, California, Texas, and Minnesota, you're going to see so much of a higher margin for Trump. It's going to carry a ton of House races. Like, I think that for sure we're going to pick up at least 2 seats in New Jersey. I think we're going to take 2 seats in New Jersey. I have bet on my local, relatively local. It's not my current district. It's my beach district. That's Jeff Vandrew. Maybe you guys remember Vandrew. Vandrew, South Jersey. I mean, South Jersey, for instance, that county was a Republican county, very moderate Republican county, went consistently like 59% to that. And I've been around that area, guys. This is like my hood. I know it. And tons of Trump signs. I mean, there were Biden signs, but it was a little bit more than, I wouldn't say it's quite 2-1, but it was close to 2-1 Trump to Biden signs in that area. So I think it's going to go to it. And this is a very independent group of people in the 2nd district, congressional district of New Jersey. I mean, like I said, they voted for Republicans. They voted for Republicans in Congress, and they voted for Obama. And then they voted for Trump in 2016. And then the midterms, they voted for Vandrews, who changed parties back to Republicans. So I think they're going to take it. But the polls are saying they're not going to take it. So I don't know how to crunch. Probably, I don't know if Bears, et cetera, are going to bother dealing with that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm getting granular with you guys here today, just trying to give you some like perspective on these things. I don't know to what extent there's going to be election day shenanigans. I think they're in a desperate situation right now. They're in a desperate situation. And so I think they're going to throw everything they possibly can at the picture. They're going to throw everything that they possibly can to try to make this stuff happen. Are they going to make it happen? I don't know. I saw the Joe Rogan, Alex Jones podcast, like many of you guys suggested, and I have to tell you, like, and Alex Jones said some things about 79 days of chaos, but I don't know. I mean, remember there was the stuff, all those documents for Tucker's show the other night disappeared. I've been seeing a lot more media censorship, a lot more suppression. There's more riots coming out. So it seems likely that they're going to throw the kitchen sink. I don't know if they have enough to deal with it, though. Look at how confident Trump is. I really encourage you guys, whenever you start to feel like, things aren't, I mean, I'm here for you. I'm all in. Like, I'm telling you guys, I'm all in. I know it. Sometimes little details become elusive, but I know where the energy's going, and they're not getting it. They're not getting it. Okay, we can quibble about details, but they're not getting it. And if they're not getting it, the left isn't getting it. If this scum is not getting it, then I have to think it's going to be a resounding victory, because they have to take the House to be able to clear it out. They have to take the House to clear it out. That has to happen. That's my perspective. I think it has to happen. I think if you're going to avoid civil war, you have to have a decisive victory. And I think a decisive victory doesn't have to be 50 states, Trump. A decisive victory, though, for Trump, decisive victory that would change people's consciousness around things and open them up to a situation where they'd have to start to go through a grieving process. Which brings me to, I'm going to talk about something else in a second here with that. They are going to, he's going to have to take more states than he took in 2016. Okay? He takes the same number of states in 2016. And if he doesn't get the popular vote, then what happens is it looks like the country is truly in gridlock. And it looks like a minority part of the country has controlled the full country. And I think that just accelerates civil war consciousness. I think that a lot of people are not going to consider it to be a valid election. They're going to consider the differences to be intractable. The left is going to continue to think that they have an argument, but the only reason they don't have power is because the system is unfair, which is going to lead to calls for secession and all sorts of shit. So I don't think that that's the timeline, and so I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that but if Trump wins a couple more states, just like, again, 326 is enough. He gets 3 more states, okay? But he wins the popular vote. Popular vote's very important. And he takes the House. I mean, the argument is very convincing to people that they're in the wrong consciousness. And I'm going to tell you guys, this is really important. I want you guys to lean on this, because we're going to come back. I mean, I'm doing another one of these on, I'm going to try to do one on Sunday. And then I want to do one on election night. So Sunday, Monday, and certainly election night. Prefer to do Sunday. Okay. We think about something here. We win this election. You have all these people, like, people can't speak out. People can't. It's difficult for people to, especially in cities, especially around, to say that, oh, I supported Trump, blah, blah, blah. There's a sort of sense from the political class and from the cultural apparatus that Trump is illegitimate, and therefore you're a bad person if you support him, which is not, of course, correct. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous proposition, but that's sort of the programming right now. The sort of idea around it is, I got a retard here. Over 228,000 have died. That's doing a good job. Hey, you retard. How about you check the figures? Check the death figures for the year. See how many people in the United States have died, and then compare it to 2019, compare it to 2018, compare it to 2017. Okay? You dumb fuck. You support people who actually made the virus. Yeah, we have 0 cases of influenza. But only a really dumb fuck would support a guy who wears Depends and shits himself, gets like 5 people to come out, and who said we should have kept the country open. But this is the kind of stuff. Of course he's getting blocked. But the point here is to say that these people right now, they actually have a little bit of a pass in a lot of corners of the country. They can say this kind of stuff because there's sort of a sense that Trump's illegitimate. Trump shouldn't have won it. And Trump got lucky, so to speak. And we're going to show him, right? We're going to show him he shouldn't be here. When he wins again, and especially if he wins with that criteria I just mentioned, popular vote, wins the House, gets a couple more states. Next, you know what happens when someone complains about Trump? Someone says, this is ridiculous, democracy's under threat. You tell that person is like, shut the fuck up. Get over it. And those people, they're going to have that across the entire nation. People who are freaking out and are having tantrums about it, people are going to say, get over it. Get over it. And they're going to suddenly realize that no one cares. No one cares. Right now, they're kind of treated like these spoiled brat kids. And they're about to get spanked pretty hard. So after the election, I think a lot's going to change. But, guys, a lot of the stuff is really bad. And I guess this is like the point to end on. I do want to reiterate, though, for people who get worried about this stuff. There's 0 fundamentals. Every single fundamental in much further margins than 2016 supports a Trump victory. So whatever the polls say, it doesn't really matter. How could this... I'm going to tell you guys, I don't want this to be misconstrued. I don't want it to be misconstrued. But if Trump doesn't get reelected, and let's just say fraud is not the biggest thing here. Obviously, there's going to be fraud. But let's say Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania don't vote for Trump. You know what? Like, fuck them. As far as I'm concerned, that's like a conscious choice that the population's making. People in those states in particular have never had somebody like do the things, the amount that he has done for people in those communities in just the last 4 years, the amount that he's fought for them. If they're so stupid to decide that they're not going to reelect him and they're going to elect Biden. I mean, look, man, like, guys, I'm in commune with God. Okay, if deep state takes over and they're going to start killing people, I mean, I'll fight with part of the resistance. I'm resigned to death because it doesn't matter at that point. It doesn't matter at that point, as far as I'm concerned. We're just recycling. It's another recycling. I'm not. I know it's like I'm opting out of the recycling. Okay. So they would have to like have made on a soul level a choice to be slaves, a choice to reject somebody who tries to help them. And I don't see any energetic signs that's the case. I see tons and tons of gratitude. I see tons and tons of energy and appreciation and hope. It doesn't make sense. We're just being lied to as usual. The same people who lied to us about everything are lying about the numbers. That's just the truth. They're lying about the numbers. Okay. And so our most conservative, and I would say most conservative, I mean judicious, people like Richard Barris, they're saying that we're going to win these states. Okay. Very, very likely that we're going to win these states, but we're going to do it. And they're just simply extrapolating off of data, not some sort of energetic push from people that magnifies it even further. Okay. So I don't see how it regresses. I don't see how it regresses. I really think the worst case scenario we can look for here is Trump wins and it's not as decisive and it becomes very difficult to kind of pacify with the narrative, and that when he moves forward with the criminal indictments, there's a lot more unrest. Because that stuff is coming. I mean, the word on the street for the last week has been this weekend that we're going to start to get stuff about the child pedophilia. And you saw Rudy Giuliani's been very outspoken about it. I mean, this is a guy Rudy is not going to say that stuff if he doesn't have it. Yeah, I call it too. Rudy's not going to talk about the fact that there's child porn on Hunter Biden's laptop unless it's actually there. He's not going to get in the fights with people. He's not going to put his reputation on the line. That's not who he is. That's not who he is. Jackson, enjoy that, man. That's going to be great. It's a hell of a weekend to do it. I got to tell you. I might take a couple of days, just like 2, in the woods myself after this election, because I'm telling you, like, I'm not just saying I'm doing it for you guys, although I love doing it for you guys, but I'm really plugged in. I mean, I'm really plugged in. It's not the kind of way I like to operate generally, because I'm really sucked into the techno kind of 3D vortex, and I can feel how it affects me. But I want to really make sure that I'm on the tip of everything, that I'm following every wave in the energy here. Yeah, Alan, I think that you're right about that. I think it's likely that they're going to put up a fight. They're going to try to throw fraud at it. It's going to get held up in the courts. And I think that Trump's also going to start to move forward with investigations afterwards. I would just say, because I will get to that post eventually, but I've gotten sucked in with this stuff. First, I got sucked in with 21 convention, then I got sucked in with the election. The one thing I will just say about the trek is that you just get in touch with God. That's it. You learn to surrender more and more, and you enter into a higher peak state. And that state becomes a grounding state. It's something that you know you can get back to. So I have dropped, and I've dropped from it. I mean, I know that. But it's like now my orientation is more focused on, okay, I know what it's like to be there. So how's my pathway there in the future? Jackson, it's my pleasure. What happens to the MSM, though? Because MSM is done after this. And so this is, I guess I can maybe leave you with this. We talk about like the polls and the news and all of it being fake and lies. You can make an argument that from a certain perspective, it's all coming out this way. It's all unfolding this way. because it needs to collapse in this big dumpster fire. I hate using that term because it got abused. It became like a hack media term. No, but it needs to all burn up. I look at it like it's a controlled demolition. If you change your perspective and you say what would they need to do to persuade people that they are demonic, you know, they're corrupt demonic pedophiles, like what would they have to do to cause to like give people the evidence to believe it, and they're doing it. The polls saying these ridiculous things, like that entire industry is done. It's done. Like 2016, people have clung to the belief that they were lied to, or that Trump did something, right? That's what better way to put it. A lot of people came to the conclusion, because it was protective to their ego after 2016. This is why the Russian hoax has been able to endure, even though it has had zero factual basis. The people who believe in it don't care about that, because the people who believe in it for completely emotional reasons, because they have to believe that there was something that disrupted their expectations and their worldview. They had to believe the fact that, okay, well, the only reason Trump won was because there was a crime committed by Trump or the Russians or whatever. The media simply provides them with a psychological reason that they can grab onto to justify their continued dissonance, right? And they're super neurotic and they're super anxious because, well, that's a conscious justification, but unconsciously they know it's not correct. So that's why 2020 is so important, because the number of people after this election, if Trump wins a decisive victory, like, there are going to be some who, as I said just recently, they are going to try to claim that it was unfair and this happened, and people are going to tell them to shut up. They're going to tell them to shut up because they're not going to feel anymore that they're outnumbered, first off. But also, second off, at this point, no one can even tolerate their emotions in their situation, because they're just and what you're going to see is many, if not most, of those people who are in this state of dissonance are going to be forced to come out of it, because people want to go with the majority. And one of the reasons the dissonance has maintained is because people still believe, because of the media, they still believe that most people think it. I had to go to the DMV for some stuff this morning. I was like, fucking blow my brains out. And I was in line, and we were kind of joking because like the DMV since COVID has been, it's like take the worst bureaucracy in the country and then make it worse. Like, it's hard to imagine. They don't allow you to make appointments. They have to just stand outside, like, and you have to get into a line. They only have like one location in all of South Jersey that allows you to do license stuff. So you have people like around the block just lined up outside. It's raining. It's like, can you imagine a stupider system? So we're talking and everything, and one of the jokes was that, oh, if Biden said he would just, fix the DMV, then, so they're basically saying like Biden should try to fix the DMV, like, as a policy. I said, yeah, if he fixed the DMV, he'd win a landslide. And then the person was like, well, he should win a landslide anyway. And it's just like this kind of like expectation. I just gave him like a stare, didn't say anything, and he kind of turned away. He was a bit of a strange person. Well, he wasn't a strange person. He's just, kind of like a soy boy sort of thing. But the point here is that people tend to believe this because they just think everybody's going to agree with them. Trump caused line of the DMV, exactly. Trump didn't fund our public servants, and the DMV is understaffed. That's the problem. DMV is understaffed. So none of the stuff makes sense. Everybody's getting a big like case study here in psychology, and this is important because our consciousness is growing. Okay, guys. For me, since 2016, I think everybody. I mean, when we talk about consciousness acceleration, what has been accelerating consciousness more than what's happened in the last 4 years? I mean, I know what I was like in 2015, and I It's like, oh my God, the progression of the last, since 2015, okay? I would actually say my first germ of like this consciousness changing was in December 2014 when I saw that Obama wasn't willing to work with Republicans who had won the midterms on immigration. And I was like, what the fuck? I thought that, they were saying that they were just looking for compromise. They were going to play nice. And then they just stonewalled everything. They wouldn't make a deal. That was when like my bubble was popped. And then it was the stuff with Justine Sacco with her like comments. She made some like joke about AIDS and got roasted and ruined. So that was like my first kind of aha, what's going on here? Like, is there something going on here, right? Like, and I started to get ostracized from my social group because I was always the big moderate. And I was kind of pointing out like, well, this is a little bit far, isn't this a little bit much? And they're like, you're not, this is a racist comment. And I started to get like, not sure about that stuff. Not sure, like, I like to be pigeonholed like that for speaking a reasoned opinion. And then we had all the stuff in 2015 in Trump. I mean, it's amazing just how things have changed, okay? So consciousness is continuing to accelerate. Guys, we're riding waves here, okay? It's a little choppy at times, but fundamentally, we're the ones who are on the edge of consciousness. Okay, we're on the edge of consciousness, and the new world is going to be ours for the taking. This election, me and a lot of us, a lot of my mutuals, we're going to make a lot of money. Okay, we're going to make a lot of money because our perception of the world is better. It's more accurate. And it's a bold statement, isn't it? Because if Trump loses, how dumb am I going to look? I'm so confident in doing it. I'm staking not only whatever money I put on the election, I'm staking my own reputation on it. Like, this is like stuff you can't walk back. It's just like, it's humiliating. So I'm all chips in, okay? I'm all chips in. You guys all chips in, right? This is a big lesson for us as we become the new leaders of society. The trust in our perception of things, to trust in our interpretation of reality, and to be able to have the mental fortitude to deal with psychological operations like this. Because that is why wealthy people, I'm not talking about the 1%, I'm talking about the 0.001%. That's why they've been able to accumulate so much wealth, is because they create the psyops. And then when we jump, they take the profits. So we're waking up here. We're waking up. I encourage you guys, please, if I can ask you guys to do anything, okay, be a beacon of hope for people around you. I gotta like jump on the phone with my parents' boomer friends every now and then and reassure them. You gotta give out the positive energy, okay? You guys are all future leaders. We're all future leaders here. There's no way that we have to carry the torch, because even people who agree with us, they don't see it all yet. They don't see the full picture. We have to be that light. We have to light fires around, light the fires around, okay? Let me see here. Anything else here? Yeah. So anyway, guys, Sunday, it's going to be an early one. I have a birthday party, but we'll probably start about 5 p.m. on Sunday. I'll try to be on time for that one. All right, I'll see you guys. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe, because it's Halloween, and it's the 19th Halloween after 9/11, which actually means something. I don't know what it means in numerology, but I've heard it means something. So be careful. Take care.